Ladies and germs, I'm here with Rob. It's yours truly, Mikey B. We're getting into the beginning of a golf season, which is trending towards Rob and I's favorite season to bet on. Of late, it's proven to be very profitable for both of us. If you break it down over the last couple seasons, it's been the one we've made the most units off of. So we have our first tournament of the PGA season coming up this week. We wanted to get something out to you guys just to give you a feeler on how we go through our process. So I'm going to pass it right off to you, Rob. If you could give us a quick walkthrough for the first one on how you break down tournaments and why you place bets on certain players.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled to get started this season. As you mentioned, this is our favorite betting season, right? Like golf for us is proven to be over the last couple of years incredibly profitable. It's the most profitable sport for either of us in terms of sports betting, and it's something that we've been looking forward to discussing more with folks and putting this out on the pod because it's both something that we enjoy betting on, it's something we enjoy watching, and occasionally trying to do our best pro imitations out there on the course when we try to get out there and do it ourselves. So
yes, sir.
This is a great sport for us. It's fun to bet on. If you're not into golf, if you don't play golf, don't watch much, that's okay, because when you start making plays on golf and when you start winning money on golf, it becomes that much more fun and enjoyable to watch on TV for sure. Absolutely. So as you mentioned, this is the unofficial start of the golf season. We have 9 months straight of PGA Tour action starting this week with the Sentry Tournament of Champions. So I know you and I are both looking forward to it. The thing I love most about golf is that there's just a ton of value each week on the board, whether it's a small and we can get into reasons why, whether it's a small tournament or a large field, where the value lies. But simply put, given the unpredictable nature of golf, and anybody that plays golf or even watches it can attest to, that creates a lot of value on the board for us. And there's just a ton of plays to be made on these tournaments, pre-tournament, live bets. We go through it all. We love it all. We play it all. Everything from outright winners to finishing position, top fives, top tens, top 20s. My personal favorite. There's tournament matchups. There's head-to-head daily matchups, 3-ball, which we'll get into. Leaders after first round, and all sorts of various props that you could play on these tournaments. And it's always been a lot of fun for us talking shop on the golf betting, every Wednesday before a tournament. So absolutely thrilled to start getting into this for the people. Thrilled to start covering some tournaments, walking through our process and how we handle, the golf betting season. It's, always been fun for us. I would just say, some of the key things that I look for when we're betting on golf, there's really comes down to 2 things, right? We look for players that are in form, guys that are playing well. And how we do that is we track strokes gained, right? That's the stat that is key for, in a lot of respects for us in tracking golfers and understanding how golfers are playing and how to play golfers, make plays on certain guys. And, again, I know I alluded to this earlier on our Sunday NFL Week 17 cast when we were talking DVOA and advanced stats, but strokes gained, without getting too advanced and too into it, strokes gained it's actually pretty simple. It's actually measuring a player's performance broken down into specific categories across the average tour professional. So it's comparing golfers in certain situations against the average golfer in similar situations, right? And that's how we break down strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, around the green, and then putting. Right. So those are the things we look for when looking to back certain golfers or fade certain golfers. And as we progress throughout the season, we can dive in more into that, especially as the season progresses and we start to get some more data and strokes gained statistics become more readily available. And we get a better sampling, a more recent sampling of how players are playing throughout the season. That's going to be incredibly helpful in terms of how we determine where to make plays, especially live plays. It is huge in live plays. So that's something that we'll get into more as the season progresses. Of course, now for this week, that information is relatively limited just based on, layoffs over the holidays and, to the extent that all these guys have been playing, since the end of the season last year with the finish of the Tour Championship. There's been a few tournaments here and there sprinkled in between then and now. But as we progress throughout the season, we'll get a better understanding of how these guys are playing in real time. The other thing we look for, of course, is horses for the courses, right? Guys that historically, traditionally play well at certain courses. We have one key target for that this week that we'll get into. But guys that are comfortable at a certain course, play well at a certain course, or have a good tournament history, those are also guys that we look to target. So we'll get into more of that. But overall, there's a ton of money to be made on golf. There's a lot of fun action to be had, and it's something that, again, we're really excited to start getting into on the cast and talk through as we make our plays throughout each week. And we're starting off this week with, it's a short field, 35-man or so field. It's the Sentry Tournament of Champions. So essentially, the field consists of all the winners from the previous year. So you're going to see a lot of big names in the field. It's a big dog tournament. But with that being said, there's still value within short fields because you're getting, top 40 players in the world at the bottom of these odds boards that, provide some considerable value, right? So that's some of the, things that we're going to be getting into throughout the year, especially when we talk about short fields like this in the Tournament of Champions. So I'm really excited. And I love kicking off the golf season in Hawaii. We have the back-to-back swing in Hawaii, starting at the Kapalua Plantation course. And I know, Mike, you've done your homework on this course this week. So why don't you walk us through it, set up the lay of the land here for Kapalua, maybe a course that some of us really hope to get to one day out on the Hawaiian Islands. So what do you see from Kapalua, and tell us a little bit more about this spot?
Yeah, this place it will be a dream to play. And I feel like for golfers like you and I, it's forgiving. If you're able to get off the tee, you can make some shots, even for handicaps like we have. So from the champion tees that the pros are going to be teeing off at, you're looking at a distance of 7,596 yards. So, but the weird thing is it's a par 73. And it's the only course scheduled for the tour this year that is a par 73. 7 holes longer than 500 yards, 4 of which are par 5s. But the funky thing about this course is on the back 9, 4 par 4s are playing shorter than 400 yards. And then if you look at it, it's a lot of wide fairways, a lot of downhill tee shots. So the guys that are accurate off the tee are going to gain some extra yards from that. But the guys that have the distance off the tee and they're feeling themselves that day or this tournament, they're going to have a major advantage. To me, when you break it down like this and without the data, like you spoke about, it's hard to really gauge who is getting true shots gained off the tee at the moment because it's something you need to look at is who's been playing competitive golf, who's been playing tournament golf going into it, and only a select guys have. Another big part is who is treating this like a vacation. If you look at some of the tenured golfers, and you can find out by who's traveling with their families, and then just to me, what we spoke about earlier is who doesn't look like a beach guy? Like who looks like they would hate time on the beach, who hates the sand. And I'm not talking about that golf related. And there are a couple golfers to me that stand out where it's like they are treating this like a business trip. And when we get deeper into the golf season, when there's more data out, it's similar to college basketball. Like once the data is out there, you can pull things together and come up with better decisions. A piece of advice I would give early in the golf season would be to tread lightly. Don't put a lot of risk out there. But there is a lot of value in a lot of golfers every tournament and every day. You can get plus money on a lot of golfers in whether it's, like you said, 3 ball, top 5 finishes, top 10, top 20s, and then the outrights. You can find golfers that won last year at 125 to 1 that cash. You put a $10 bet on that, you're talking about a $1,250 profit. So there is so much money to be had, and for us, it's our favorite sport to bet on, like you touched on, because the profit, all it takes is one good week, and you bought yourself a season. So that's a quick touch on Kapalua's Plantation course, and it's not a tough course. If you look at the previous winners, it's minus 20, minus 25, anything in between. Like, you need to be able to score everywhere. One thing I'm looking at, and this is a live line, who has the putter hot on Thursday? If their putter's trending hotter than it normally is to last season, then I would look to fade them. But it looks like they got rain recently, so the greens are going to be soft. So anybody that has good approach game, because typically if you look at it, all of these guys are going to have pitching wedges shooting between 130 to 90 yards on their second shot if they hit a good tee shot. And the golfers that are going to be at the top of the leaderboard are going to be doing that throughout the course of this weekend. So who hits good irons, who scores well on par fives, and the putter to me it's hit or miss. Right now, it's hard to gauge who has a hot putter. I did see Tony Finau had an equipment change and has been doing some things to tweak his putting, because that's been a big issue with his game throughout the course of his career. But that's just not something I'm willing to put my money on, just seeing an Instagram video. If you break it down, Rob, for me, the key betting aspect of this tournament is who's treating it like a vacation, who hates the beach, and who's been playing competitive golf lately. So, with that being said, who are you leaning towards with good course history, who doesn't like the beach, and who has done well in these type of tournaments? I know you have a guy that you're ready to back immediately that checks everything off on every box.
Yeah, I think we'll start there, right? And and I don't think it's any surprise, because I think he's a popular sharp pick this week, and that's Patrick Reed, notorious bad guy of the PGA Tour. All rules indiscretions aside, I still have always been a kind of quasi Patrick Reed fan. I like how he embraces the bad guy role to some extent. I'm going with a couple bad guys on the PGA Tour this week, and starting with Patrick Reed.
I like it.
Primarily for one of the main reasons that we discussed, right? He is a horse for the course. He plays very well at Kapalua. He's won the Tournament of Champions before. He plays well in Hawaii on these first couple of weeks on this Hawaiian swing. He played well last year in Hawaii.
Yep.
So I'm targeting Patrick Reed right now at plus 2,800, and I locked that in earlier today. Looking at the board, Patrick Reed is still listed at 2,800, so there hasn't been too much movement on there, surprisingly, to some extent. But I'm locking in Patrick Reed as one of my outright plays this week. Going to be wind up dropping a small play on him, just given the odds. But I do like Patrick Reed, again, going with guys that are familiar with the course, who are out here on that business trip, who have played well here, who look forward to coming to Hawaii to compete. And that's something we've seen out of Patrick Reed out of the last few years. Again, previous winner in the Tournament of Champions. So Patrick Reed is going to be a play for me from an outright perspective, as well as a top 5 perspective. Locked, again, Patrick Reed, 2,800 outright winner. Also a top 5 finishing position for Patrick Reed at plus 400. So I like both of those plays. I love Patrick Reed to compete this week in Hawaii. And that's definitely someone I have the target on this week.
Question for you, because I saw Sobel from Action Network backed Patrick Reed this week. Because we've seen time and time again, when you get these so-called sharps, once they put their pick in, they might hit 1 or 2 a season. And it is that hard. Like, it really is that hard. Like, I don't want this to come across as we have the magic 8 ball, because we don't. We've had a couple really good years. I want people to bet responsibly with golf, because you don't have to put that much money down to make a lot of money. But it does make me nervous once it's the same as football, where once the general public is in on a golfer, it just seems like they shit the bed. This is a no cut event, obviously, so that helps. So you buy yourself an extra day to put yourself in the thick of things come Sunday. But that is something that made me nervous, because I also put in a Patrick Reed official play at plus 3,000 yesterday. And once I saw that cosign from Sobel, I was nervous.
Yeah, I mean, anytime the so-called experts start hopping on the guy that you like originally, you start to get a little weary, right? Just like when you turn on NFL Fox Sunday and you see
Yep,
everybody
yep.
pick the team you're picking, you're like, oh, like how many times do we watch on Sunday, and have the pundits pick all straight across the board, against us, and we're like, oh, thank God, like that's what we want to see, right?
Yep.
Like we want to see those guys go the other way. No, I mean, listen, I think I enjoy the Action Network and their golf coverage. I think it's pretty good. If we, I know you and I both follow along, but I really just think Reed is just a smart play, right? If you're gonna, again, you're talking about the first tournament of the year for a lot of these guys. Again, still limited data out on how these guys are playing at the moment, just because of the relative newness of the season. So if if you're a smart player, if you're gonna back put your money on somebody, I think you back with somebody that historically has performed well in this spot, and that is Patrick Reed. Not only that, but you're getting really good value at 28-1 on Patrick Reed, I think,
I
especially
agree
for
with that.
plays here, right? And that's what we talked about. In these short fields, you're going to have guys around that area like Patrick Reed. I mean, Patrick Reed at 28-1, Tony Finau at 25-1, a guy like Sungjae Im, who has proven to be a very consistent player on the tour since his rookie season, and that's 22-1. Like, you have guys, and going up to even Jordan Spieth at 20-1. You have guys in that area that can, provide a lot of value at those numbers. I mean, going further down the board, you even have Brooks Koepka coming in at 30-1 at the moment. You have guys with some supreme talent out there, look further down the board that can create some serious value. And when you match that with a guy like Reed, who has played well at this course and this event previously, I think that's why you're going to see a lot of folks trend toward, make Patrick Reed a trendy pick. And he may be a trendy pick to some extent in the expert circles, but I'm more than comfortable with backing Patrick Reed this week at the Plantation course.
But it's even funny you say that. So he is a trendy pick, but at the number you're getting him, that's still a good value play.
Yeah, and
But
it's
I wanted to touch on real fast. I don't mean to cut you off. Two guys that you brought up with major shots gained on this course. Jordan Spieth with 2.81 shots gained here at the Plantation course. That leads all the records that I could find. And then you look at Sungjae Im at 2.4. That's another good number. He's right up there with the top dogs. That's another good value play. And Jordan Spieth is another guy that you could talk about that you're getting really good value, especially with the trendy end of the season that he had. You're not going to find a lot of numbers that reflect anything remotely close to as good as what you're given right here. But this, like I'm saying, is one of those tournaments that you need to figure out who is it important to. And you can create any narrative in your head as like who you believe in and who you think is focused, because it's tough to gauge who is walking into this one really wanting it. And somebody I have an official play on that we can touch base on later is someone I view as this golf season, he's going to step leaps and bounds above everybody else. And he's a proven solidified stud. So this should be nothing that catches anybody off guard. But to me, somebody I'm going to bring up to you, Rob, with all the models that I ran, Sam Burns at plus 1,600. This is somebody that nobody's talking about, but that number seems low to me. And every model that I ran, he was near the top of the list. No matter what I did to alter it, Sam Burns kept popping up within the top 3. And just seeing that and not hearing any narrative around his notoriety, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to put 1 unit on Sam Burns. That's my only official 1 unit play. With this field, it's tough to say. And given the tournament, it's tough to say, is he going to win? But based off of what I was seeing, I had to pull the trigger on it. And at plus 1,600, I don't feel that value is fair. But that's another thing to me in golf betting where, like, you look at a number and it doesn't make sense to you, like, you take that number. Especially when it's trending more towards the direction of the books.
Sure. Yeah. No. And right now, I'm looking at DraftKings. I'm seeing Sam Burns at 1,800. Right. So, and
So
frankly,
that's a good number.
Hey, game respects game, and I know you put the work into Sam Burns, and I know this is a guy that you and I have both followed along pretty closely last year during what was somewhat of a breakout year for him. I'm actually a little surprised to see the number that short for Sam Burns. I know he's a contender. He's been near the top of the leaderboard in a lot of tournaments last year. The one thing that concerns me a little bit with Sam Burns is just that closing power that he has to finish off tournaments, especially at the end of the day on Sunday. So I would be looking to see him make kind of a jump in that regard in terms of closing out tournaments. But I definitely think he's a guy to target this year in terms of making that next step on the tour and becoming more of a solidified, player, more of a premier player. So I don't hate the Sam Burns play at all, and especially if you got the resource to back it up. I think there is, something to be said about Burns going into this year, and he's definitely one of those guys when we talk about guys making the next step this season. He's one of those younger players that I could see doing that. He is a stud, and from everything that we hear about him, he's a gamer. He's a guy that grinds. He's a winner. Young guy coming out of LSU. He was in quite a few tournaments last year. I do like Sam Burns. I don't know if I like the 1,600 as much. I do think it's relatively short when you got guys like Patrick Cantley at 1,400, Daniel Berger at 2,000, 20 to 1. So it's
Patrick Reed at plus 3,000 to plus 28. That was one of those that made me. That was one of the reasons I pulled the trigger. I'm like, this number seems low, and this number seems like, honest to God, because to me, I feel like a lot of the golf world doesn't even really know who Sam Burns is yet. Because you have to really follow it like you and I do to understand, like, this guy is up and coming. Like, he's the Daniel Berger. Like, last year, like, that was one of our dark horses for last year's PGA season, and he had a great year. Sam Burns, to me, is one of those guys this year that's going to take a breakout season, and he's going to win a couple tournaments, and I think he's going to be there come Sunday in 1 or 2 of the majors. Am I saying he's going to win it? No, I'm not going to say that, but I think he's going to be there late in contention come 2, 3 o'clock on Sunday. That's how I see him taking this step. And looking at the number that Vegas is giving me, it seemed a little fishy, so that's why I took it. But if you look at previous winners, Rob, so 2017, we have Justin Thomas. 2018, we have Dustin Johnson. 2019, Xander Schauffele, who is arguably our favorite golfer, who is ready and poised to make a freaking run at it. And I believe this year he's going to grab himself a major or two, because when he's clicking, he has every facet of the game. He might be, in my opinion, one of the best all-around golfers. But then you look at 2020, Justin Thomas again, and 2021, Harris English. So I'm looking at Harris English, and that was a guy that nobody knew existed going into last season. And that's no disrespect to Harris English, but if you really break it down, like, he wasn't brought up in any Sunday dinner conversations ever. but he gets that win, and then he trends in the right direction. I like Sam Burns to be that guy. I'm following a trend, looking at the number. That's really why I pulled the trigger on that. I'd like for you to start off with your finishing position bets and then take me through your top 10s, your top 5s, and then you and I can go through some official outright plays.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms, because it is a relatively short field, I think there's obviously limited value on finishing position, right? Like I'm not looking to make any top 20 bets in a 35, 40 man field. Even top 10s are a little scarce for me. So for me, there's two, key top 5 bets that I'm looking at. The first we've mentioned, that's Patrick Reed. And the second is a guy that I like for both top 5 and outright. So again, I said I like two PGA Tour bad guys going into this week. My second one is going to be Bryson DeChambeau. And it really lends to the reasons that, you discussed on, how this course shapes out, right? So you're looking at a wide fairway course. There is a lot of room for error for a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, who just loves to just absolutely punish the ball and just mash around the course, plug his way around the course by, hitting it long, going to find the ball and just kind of either hacking it out of the rough or finding some fairways. I think this course sets up perfectly for a guy like Bryson DeChambeau. So I'm making DeChambeau an official play on both outright at right now. I have Bryson locked in at 1,400. Looking at is already down to 1,200 on DraftKings now. So that's moved a little bit already. There's been a few of the plays that we'll get to that have moved, right? So we haven't seen any movement on Reed, but DeChambeau has moved from 1,400 to 1,200 already within the span of a day. We'll see how much further that climbs down, throughout the day to Wednesday and into the start of the tournament. So I like Bryson DeChambeau, especially with the way the course sets up for him. At top 5, DeChambeau is plus 275, and I like that play as well. And just to give it,
Where did you put that play in at, Rob? Because I think something that's so important with golf betting that we need to bring up is if you're going to put bets in like top 5 finishes or top 10s, it needs to be on Bet MGM. It just has to be because they pay it out in full. And when you really look at your units at the end of the season, that matters so much.
And you're referring to dead heat, right? So
Yes.
and that's a good point, right? So with the finishing position bets, you're looking at like dead heat rules, right? For example, so we have, let's say DeChambeau comes in at 5th place, but it's a tie for 5th place with 6, 7 other guys, right? Certain books, like a DraftKings, a FanDuel, etc., they won't pay out for those dead heats, and you'll take a haircut on your odds where a guy is tied for 5th, with 6 or 7 guys in that top 5. Whereas a book like at BetMGM, they'll pay out for dead heat. So you'll even if Bryson DeChambeau is in top 5, but there's 6 or 7 guys in a top 5 because of ties, you'll still get the full value for your money there at that plus 275 or whatever it may be at BetMGM at the moment. But coinciding with that is the fact that shop around like anywhere else, like for any other sport or any other competition. Shop around at the books and find the best number. Because especially with golf where there could be some variation there. Like I said, so Bryson DeChambeau, again, that was a play I made before we jumped on the pod today at plus 275. Already seeing it down to plus 230 on the top 5 at DraftKings. So there's already been some movement there, right? So we're getting some movement, and not that I think DraftKings is tracking my plays at this moment, but there's already been some movement on some of these guys that we're making plays on, like DeChambeau. And like I said, DeChambeau locked him at 1,400. It's down to 1,200, 12 to 1 now on DraftKings. So there's been movement on DeChambeau already. I like the way the course sets up for him, the wide fairways, the especially as you mentioned, the amount of length that there are in certain par 5s and par 4s. I love the way that sets up for him on the back 9 with the short par 4s. Again, love the heavy hitters in that aspect. For me, Bryson DeChambeau's success will come down to how he plays around the greens. One of the things I was looking at this week is the way, and I forget who had put it out, but it was a trajectory as the way Bryson DeChambeau's game, from a strokes game perspective, has developed since this body transformation, just after the reset following COVID, right? So, of course, his strokes gained off the tee numbers have increased as a result of that. But something that has actually he struggled with within the past year or so are the strokes gained around the greens, and that short game. So that's something a little bit of a concern to me when it comes to playing Bryson DeChambeau, is how he's playing around the greens in that short game aspect of his game. So to me, if he can play well around the greens, he's absolutely in the running for this thing, because I expect him to mash the ball off the tee. There's plenty of forgiveness out there on this course. It's a true player's course, as we have now discussed at length. So for me, it comes down to DeChambeau making some solid plays around the green, getting the ball up and down, where he isn't able to hit a GIR, and that for me is going to go a long way in DeChambeau's success this week. So again, that's another guy I really like in addition to Reed. So my top 5 plays really come down to Reed at plus 400 and DeChambeau plus 275 right now.
Yeah, I like both of them a lot, just especially off of the strength Bryson DeChambeau brings, especially with the back 9 holes. You could see a lot of eagle putts on those par 4s if he's getting off the tee accurately. And then you should see a lot of within 6 feet birdie putts. Like when you break it down like that, he could be down 3 to 5 strokes and you go into the back 9 and like he still has a shot at it.
Yeah, because he can get after a few of those. Yeah.
Yeah, like he can gain a couple strokes on that back 9 come Sunday. Like that's a dangerous guy, especially when he's getting off the tee. I'm not going to call him a bad boy of golf because he's a noodle, but he's definitely one of those guys. He is dangerous when he's getting off the tee accurately.
And we know he's not afraid to play aggressive, right? Like we saw that at Bay Hill last year. Like he's not afraid to go after it.
I think him and Brooks Koepka, when you look at it, are like 2 D-bags on the other ends of the spectrum. You have like the try hard, then you have the nerd. So neither one of them are afraid to leave it out there, and that's something as a competitor you have to respect, regardless of how you feel about them personally. Because Brooks is a big game hunter. That's why I don't believe I'm not going to back him in this tournament, because this doesn't really mean anything to him. He's proven throughout his career he doesn't care enough about these to really go out there and compete. I'm viewing this like he's treating this as a vacation. Bryson, I feel like, does always have a chip on his shoulder, so I'm always going to think he's going to play himself into every tournament. He's not taking any off. But I have some good value on some players, and maybe my favorite play of this tournament is Billy Horschel. And this, I'm just going straight to my outright plays. I like Billy Horschel at plus 6,600, and I put 0.3 units on that. And that's another thing for new golf bettors. You don't need to put full units. You can put 0.1. You can put a half a unit and anything in between on these guys, and you can make way more than you would on a 4-leg NFL parlay. You can sprinkle money around and lower your risk, but at the same time hit for a lot of it if one of these guys is in contention. Billy Horschel was another guy I saw in some models that he's a Florida boy. I don't think he's going to be amazed by Hawaii beaches. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that is amazed by beaches. He seems like a bona fide goober to me. He fit a lot of models that I put together. And seeing that number, because he's proven that he can compete in big tournaments. He can compete in any tournament. Just seeing 6,600, I had to pull the trigger on that, especially where he landed on some of the models I put together. I'm a big fan of him, and right now, just looking at risk, he's the person I'm pulling for the most in this. And he's another one of those guys like Sam Burns that I think is poised for a big PGA season.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Ho. I mean, he's he had a pretty solid year last year. I think
Yeah.
he's one of the generally one of the kind of better ball strikers on the tour. I believe he's average, right around above average. He's a solid player. I don't hate the play. I'm seeing it right now on DraftKings at actually at 70 to 1 for Billy.
I'm glad I got bad numbers on all my golfers.
So, and again, I think it all depends on where you shop. But no, I mean, I don't hate the play at all. I think it's a pretty decent play. My next one for you is I'm gonna, and I know this is somebody on your board, and I want to get into why I want the motivation behind this pick, but the little, more on the chalky side. But I really like Kyle Morikawa this
Me
week.
too. Me
Um,
too.
I got him at 10 to 1 right now on the board. I saw that you got him at a little bit better price this time than me at 11 to 1. I think that's again a good good price. Right now, looking at him, it's still 10 to 1 on DraftKings. 10 to 1 still available, but I really like Kyle Morikawa this week for a couple of reasons. Number one, we talk about the motivation factor. Who's there on a business trip? Who's there on vacation? This is a business trip for Colin Morikawa.
Totally agree.
Colin Morikawa is in position this week to take over Jon Rahm for the number one player in the world. So, unless Jon Rahm either wins the tournament or has a solo second place finish, there are a number of scenarios, depending on where the two finish, where Colin Morikawa can overtake Jon Rahm for the number one official number one player in the world. So I think there's plenty of motivation for Colin Morikawa to play well in this tournament. I think he has played relatively well. A couple weeks ago, he was near the top of the leaderboard. I almost had a shot to win a couple weeks ago as well. So I do like Colin Morikawa coming in with some relatively decent recent form. The motivation factors there for him. So I really like that. And again, I know there's a case to be said that you could say this about every tournament, but one of the most important factors on a course like this is going to be, strokes gained approach, guys on their second shots who can put the ball
And he's
close.
the best.
He just has, to me, he just has consistently proven, as his career has progressed so far, to be one of the most consistent, solid ball strikers on tour. So I don't mind backing him in a little bit more of a chalky pick on this one. Just because of his ability to be in contention, his ability to separate himself. We saw what he did at the Open last year on, his ability to close on Sunday, his ability to shake off an average or below average day and come right back and fire, a strong number. I really like Kyle Morikawa as a favorite play this week for those reasons. And frankly, especially where at Kapalua, where you have some very large greens, undulated greens. This is one of those courses where, eventually they got to toughen it up for these players somewhere. And I think a certain portion of that relates to how large some of these greens are. So again, a guy that has good strokes gained approach numbers, who can get the ball close to the hole on his approach shots, like a Colin Morikawa. That's why I don't mind backing a chalkier pick in Colin this week. The motivation factor and everything that he has kind of going for him.
Yeah, no, I think it may not be this year, but in the years coming, strokes gained on approach is going to be the most important stat in golf because, like you said, they're going to continuously try to make it harder, and it's been proven that you can keep adding distance to it. It doesn't matter. I mean, we have a golfer hitting an 8-iron 200 yards. The distance you add doesn't matter. So where you do it is around and on the greens. So strokes gained on approach to me is going to be the most important stat in golf come the next 3 to 5 years. And
If it isn't
Colin
already,
Morikawa, what'd you say?
if it isn't already,
Yeah, you're right. So you're talking about the best. That's the one chalk bet that I put real money on this week. I really like him. I like him every week, especially when he finds his putter because he's statistically not the best. He's actually not even really that good for the most part, but when he finds it, you're not going to beat him.
yeah.
When his putter's on, you have no shot of beating him because then everything else follows. And then You saw his first major that he won. Once he starts to feel confident, he takes driver off the tee, drives a green, sinks a putt. You're in big trouble when you have a dude feeling it like that. And when he gets rolling, he's the best golfer out right now.
Yeah.
That's my chalk bet of the week for 0.4 units. And I want it to be said, I have 2 units on outright plays. Don't extend yourself too far, especially for the first month of the golf season. There's no reason to. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of my official plays. So I have 0.1 units on Cam Davis at plus 10,000. A 0.1 unit on Garrick Higo at plus 12,500. Then I put another 0.1 unit on Patrick Reed at plus 3,000. I put 0.3 on Billy Horschel. I put a unit on Sam Burns. I put 0.4 on Colin Morikawa. So that's a total of 2. And I think we're not expressing the importance of matchup play, 3-ball. Like, you're going to have to follow this live on Twitter because we can't give you these plays right now. And we're not going to be able to do this pretty much throughout the course of the year, except for like maybe majors and stuff like that, big tournaments. But you're going to have to follow that live on Twitter. And Rob, you and I, throughout the course of any Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have so many plays that we put out there that you have to just follow the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, for a couple of reasons, right? So, I think, certainly come Tuesday night, Wednesday, depending on when we put out our tournament preview, we may give an indication of where we're looking in certain matchups and spots. I have a tournament matchup for you today which I'll get to, a tournament, long matchup. But as you know, and then we mentioned that one of our favorite plays to make are those 3-ball bets. So 3-ball being the daily matchup of the threesome going out that day, 3 golfers, and you're picking the golfer to win the day, right, between the group. And one of the, while we can look, 2 reasons why it's tough, right, for the first tournament is because, number one, we have limited data and limited recent data available to us in terms of seeing how these guys are playing, like at the moment, right? Like what kind of form they're in. Like there's some guys that have been playing competitive golf within the past couple of weeks. There's some guys that are, just starting the season. So I think it's just a spot where to, like you said, tread lightly a little bit, especially when it comes to 3-ball matchups when, those are quite volatile, right? And they're pretty they can be pretty unpredictable at times. So we're always looking for some good value there. And second, is that, as we progress through the tournament, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we love playing those matchups. And how we play those matchups is by taking a look at how the strokes gained numbers are lining up for guys the previous day, right? So, and you mentioned guys that come out hot putting, right? So, one of the big trends in golf betting you'll see is that you come in Thursday and you see a guy who is right off the bat hot with his putter, right? Has an exceptional day with the putter, strokes gained putting, leading the field, etc. But maybe some other numbers aren't as strong, whether it's approach, strokes gained approach that we talked about, off the tee, etc. Those are the guys that we're looking the next day to take a step back, come back down to earth with the putter. If their other numbers haven't been strong, for example, strokes gained approach, that could be a guy that we're looking to fade that next day, or vice versa, where we see a guy with strong strokes gained approach numbers or strong off the tee numbers, and maybe struggled, had some unfortunate luck with the putting. Is eventually putting kind of finds its medium with these guys. So again, that would be on the reverse. That would be an example of a guy that we'd be looking to tail, because the key for me in following golfers throughout the course of a tournament and making live plays on guys throughout the course of a tournament, whether it's live outrights or it's a matchup, a 3-ball matchup, or a head-to-head matchup for that day, it's really who's striking the ball well, right? Because that, to me, is the best indicator of the current form of the players, how they're striking the ball. And so for that, we look to the strokes gained approach numbers. And then for me, after that would probably be, strokes gained off the tee, how they're getting off the tee. Certainly want to make sure guys are, are steady off the tee. And for a course like this, as we talked about, I don't think it's as important where it is more forgiving. So for me, throughout the course of the tournament, the live plays we're putting out, you'll see us focusing on guys that are striking the ball well. So yeah, stay tuned for the live, for the matchup plays. Those are just a ton of fun to follow on a Thursday or Friday at work, right? And you have a little, craving for some action, something to follow throughout the day. So that's part of the reason why we love playing those matchup plays, and also because they're fun, and more often than not, we're relatively pretty decent at it. So I'll be looking at those as well. I'll run you through the rest of my outrights. We touched on Morikawa, have zero point 0.4 units on him. DeChambeau, the same there, 0.4. My last outright that I'm going to add is Patrick Cantley. I love the way Cantley ended the year last year. Again, another guy I'm looking to continuing his progression toward in his career and taking another step this year. So I do like Patrick Cantley, a plus 1,600. 0.35 units on him as well. Just to do a double check, Cantley. I don't know, Mike. Another one for you. I got looking at DraftKings board has 14-1 on Cantley, down from that 16.
No, you're looking really sharp, and that's funny that you brought that up. That was another guy that I think I said to you earlier this week. I'm like, this is just a non-beach guy.
Yeah,
and it's the guy that has been playing such good golf. He could win any given tournament. Like, I think he's another guy that is poised for a run. This one boils down to whatever narrative you want to create, really. You can say whatever you want about this tournament. Cantley's another guy that I would back, but I feel like I'm already a little overstretched or overreaching on this, because without the data, I don't feel that comfortable putting too much money down on outright bettors. I'd rather save that for some matchup plays come Thursday, Friday, because that's our real bread and butter.
I'm close to you, not as much as you, but I'm coming in at 1.35 units on outrights between those four plays. So, and I totally agree with the approach, right? It's a tread light week, make some spot, pick some guys you feel, confident in, headed in pre-tournament for some outrights, threw out a couple top fives, but, if you're going to volume play this one, if you're going to put some plays in, check out the first day, see how that plays out. And then when you could start to kind of track those numbers and see how guys are playing in real time.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can live bet outrights if you like one of the front runners, catch them on a bad Thursday. But then you look at the statistics of it, it's like, all right, he was cold with the putter, but that's going to come. So you might be able to find a better number. These are the things you need to stay up to date with, and follow the Twitter at Take Your Pick. And Rob and I will be very active on that throughout the entire golf season, because like you said earlier, Thursday, Friday, throughout the course of the day, you have nothing else. This will get you through. We're here to help. We're going to get you through your week, ladies and gentlemen.
It's that time of the year where, for me, the week is like Wednesday night comes, and like by the time Thursday comes, it's like, oh, the week's already practically over because I could follow the golf tournament all
Yep.
Right? And I don't want to get into too many war stories, because now it comes down to putting it up this season, right, for the pod and for the platforms. But to your point, right, like these live plays, like one of our best plays last year was Justin Thomas live at the Players on Saturday,
plus
right?
10,000.
I mean, that was a bankroll builder right there, and it was a guy that we targeted middle of the tournament.
Rob, that was a tournament, dude. That one right there alone paid for the entire golf season, and I could do so much damage and still be profitable.
Yeah,
I bet him before. I bet him Friday, and then I think he went -8 through the front nine, -7. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I think he rattled off 6 or 7 birdies in a row, and I got him before he teed off, and we both put it in at plus 10,000. Like, that alone, you're gonna get a golfer at like Justin Thomas's caliber at plus 10,000. We can make you some money. I'm not trying to talk arrogantly, but if you pay attention to it, if you follow the trends of the tournament, you follow the trends of the golfer, and then you follow the trends of the season, what matters in certain spots, eventually things are going to hit. Yeah. Stay true to the course. Don't overextend yourself going into a tournament, and I think that we're gonna have another really good run. I'm very excited to have this back.
I'm thrilled. Yeah, I can't wait. I got a couple more for you before I let you go. So a couple more to throw out. First round leader play. I'm going back to a guy that you mentioned a little earlier, and that's Jordan Spieth. I
Okay.
like Jordan Spieth. I tend on my first round leader bets. These are small plays. These are shots in the dark to some extent. Guy you expect to come out hot, fire a low number. Spieth is, I think, generally he's pretty notorious for some hot starts. When he's playing well, he will start out hot early. So I like Spieth at plus 2,000 to make a run in the first round. I can double check that now for us. Jordan Spieth plus 2,000 still, so I haven't gotten any movement on that one. But I do like, just a little sprinkle there on pick. That's my guy for the first round, Jordan Spieth. I'll give a shot on him. And then finally, a tournament matchup. So a matchup lasting throughout the tournament, head to head. I like Tony Finau as minus 130 over Mark Leishman, your boy. But I'm going to drop a unit and a third on Tony Finau to get the win this tournament over Leishman. Great thing about these tournament matchups this week is there's no cut. So your guys,
You got 4 shots at it.
You guys into it all 4 rounds. So I like Tony Finau to come out strong. I understand the putting change and the putter change, but I don't know about you. Did you check out that 59 wash that he had earlier this year off season?
Rob, and it's funny because do you remember that Sunday where you went 7 for 7 in matchups?
I do.
Tony was one of those staples.
Not getting the war stories, but yeah, I do.
Here's the thing. Tony's one of those guys, especially if he's down and the pressure's off, he plays out of his mind. So if you I really like that, especially Tony's somebody you can't get down on going into Sunday morning because he can come out striking lights hot. Like he's one of those guys that can be red hot Sunday morning and go -8 on a Sunday when it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
And gain all that ground.
And I feel like this is something I've been saying for the past couple of years now, but I'm going to say it again. It's time. It's time, Tony. It's time for Tony to win a big one this year. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world.
I know.
He does have that closing power for the reasons you said. Like it's on any given day, like he can go out there and fire low, and then it's like good luck catching up to him. If he puts it, I think it's just a story on Tony. If he puts it together for the 4 rounds, like I just feel like he's not knocking on that door. He's banging on that door, and I think it's a matter of time.
And he's got the foot for it, Rob. He can kick it in.
Yeah, he's kicking. Yeah, exactly. So I know you mentioned. I know you mentioned who was it earlier for your major pick? Was it Bernsey possibly getting a major, or Shoffley? Our boy Xander, right? Again, love Xander.
Xander's gonna get one.
Xander and Tony. In terms of first timers this year, it's It's Xander and Tony. Like they, one of them's got to break through this year. So I'll be keeping an eye on 2 of our favorite guys. So I'm hoping one of at least one of those guys breaks through finally this year.
Yeah, I'm pulling for both of them. They're both likable guys. They're both good golfers. Yeah, but I think we're done boring the general listener with golf talk. I have nothing else to add to my slate or this tournament. Is there any final points you wanted to bring up?
No, I mean, I think that's about it, right? Like I said at the beginning, right? As we go throughout the course of the season, we'll kind of sprinkle in some of hey, here's how we kind of manage certain things. Here's how we play certain things. Just a little bit of insight for the more casual, player that's looking to get more involved in the golf betting. It's just a ton of fun. It makes it more enjoyable to watch if you don't already enjoy it, but I know we do in any event. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the start of the season. And I enjoy the big dog tournaments. When I say that, I mean the short fields with a really stacked bunch. I enjoy these to some extent. I like the big ones too, but this will be a fun way to kick it off. So I'm really looking forward to it. And just keep an eye out for live ads because I'm sure as the tournament progresses, we'll have a few.
Yeah, no, and this is one of those sports. Don't get discouraged if your golfer has a bad Thursday because there are 3 more. Like you can't get down early, and don't get too up early either. We've seen that time and time again where our horse is out of the gates running, and then they just lose all the gas. So it's a long tournament. It's a long season. go with the ebbs and flows of it. Rob, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to break down the rest of them with you. I'm sure we're going to find a couple gems throughout the course of this season. Until next time, kid.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy this tournament. Yeah, I mean, what a time. Golf season, NFL playoffs. Don't get much better. Yeah.
What a time to be alive. All right, everybody.